Welcome to the Entrepreneur Show. This is your host, Michael Marra. I'm the CEO and founder of Entre, a social network for entrepreneurs, investors, and freelancers. On this show, we interview the top CEOs, venture capitalists, angel investors, and founders. Connect with me and thousands of other like-minded people by signing up for free at joinentre.com or download our mobile app on iOS and Android.
Zcca, for people who aren't familiar with yourself, I'd love to, you have a very, very interesting background, and you've been in the investing arena for the last several years. So why don't you give people a little bit of background on yourself, how you got into investing? I know you had a tremendous career as well, and then you got into investing, and it seems like you're full blown into this investing world now and doing amazing things. So why don't we start with that, and why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into all this, and then where this I guess drive for starting to invest in startups came from.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. How many hours do we have? I like it. I love the question. It was a great question. Okay. So let me try. I'll try my best. My name's Zcca. I'm the general partner of Responsibly Ventures, and it's a PreSeed VC impact fund focused on sustainability and social good. There's the quick pitch. And my background. So I have a background of maybe 15 plus years as a sustainability focused investor. I started as an environmental economist way back in the day, and since then, my whole kind of focus has been to put my money behind things that are better for the planet, better for people. To keep it super simple.
Absolutely love it. And I'm actually going to, for people who are just popping into, I'm going to screen share some of his site and everything as well, because like what he's doing now is absolutely incredible.
You're too kind.
While you got into, so when you first started all of this, right? Like
when I was in diapers.
What made you want to die? I know you were in this, but what made you want to get into venture? Like, because it's very different than working in the environmental industry, having a job, working with the government, all that stuff. Like, why get into the tech and startup and investing scene?
Well, okay. So the light bulb went off in terms of venture around 3 years ago. I was working with a family office, and I was running a quant team, and I was working on the technical due diligence side for some of the venture deals. So in family offices, they're able to kind of invest across arenas and asset classes, things like that. And for me personally, that was a tremendous opportunity. For one, I found that venture capital requires a lot of synergistic type of thinking across ideas, ideascapes, or across markets, across relationships, across kind of segments, if you will. And that was just tremendous because it felt like I could use a part of my creative brain for that. I love the aspect of creativity, which goes into this field. In my experience, that's really what stimulates me in terms of every single day I'm learning something from the founders, how amazing their teams are and what they're working on. And usually I'm the dummy to go into the meeting. I'm always the one to be like, okay, tell me what I don't know, because I know I don't know a lot, kind of thing. And that's the true pleasure of my work.
Yeah, it seems like that's a common thread I've noticed with other investors and it's one of the reasons why when I'm done with all the entrepreneurial stuff, at some point I would.
You'll never be done. Don't even say that.
Get into the investor side. And it's one of those things where I don't think I could ever turn off that switch. But it's something that.
Can I stop you for a minute there, Michael?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So firstly, you're investing in your own company right now. You're investing your time, your resources, your money, your capital. A general partner, I'm also a founder. So I look at myself as operating under constraints similarly. I apologize for stopping you there, but basically, if you're going to operate a fund at some point, or if I'm going to, we also have to have a founder mindset in terms of how to utilize our resources Sorry to interrupt you though.
No, you're good. I totally agree. I think it's the way that I look at it in a lot of, from a slightly different perspective is like, okay, the reason that a lot of investors love investing is because they don't necessarily have to come up with the ideas so much anymore, but they get to talk about all these interesting things and get presented with experts in industries. And like what you were saying is you get to talk to the smartest people in in a bunch of different industries that do really innovative things. And
Can I extend what you're saying in a slightly modified way?
Go
Okay,
for it.
I totally agree with you in that. But I'd also say that there's a really fascinating part that happens when you see, I don't know how many thousands of deals I've seen, how many pitches I've been through, etc. You get in this space where you know enough about to be dangerous, right?
Mhm.
That me. But then in some ways you get to be part of the innovation process. For example, let's just dumb this down way down. For example, you're pitching to me and I have a reason to be taking the meeting with you. I love your vision, I love your team, your product, your traction, et cetera, et cetera. I love the impact focus. Now, I know a million things that you may not know because I've spoken to your competitors and there was an obvious pass, et cetera. I have an ethical duty. I have this thing where I need to be careful in terms of conflicts of interest. As you know, I like to ethically operate, and most VCs, if not all VCs, tend to do that um,
Mhm.
because it's a relationship business. However, one thing that's maybe overlooked in my view, and I know we're jumping like way down the deep end. I love this. This conversation
Good.
just yeah,
No, it's yeah.
for me personally, I think that one thing that may not be discussed as much in the entrepreneurial side of the discussion is that perhaps an investor, when you're entitled to all this trust, I know a lot of material aspects about businesses that I sometimes don't want to know, but there's an element of so when I take information and synthesize it based on private discussions that are material to other parties, I have this responsibility to synthesize it in a way that's going to generate value for our fund, but to do so in a way that doesn't damage or harm others. So, and that's a value. There's some weird value in that. And I've been talking about this in a couple interviews recently and having open discussions about it. And I think it's not discussed enough because there's an aspect of innovation in that, which is not obvious. It's kind of a funny thing I'm discovering as I go here. So hopefully I'm not saying something obvious, but
Yeah, no, you're good. I think the entire way that you're building your fund and a lot of these investors. So I've always enjoyed talking to angel investors more than venture capitalists.
understood.
And part of that, in my opinion, is what you alluded to earlier, which is the fact that they are kind of they're entrepreneurs in their own right, right? They created the fund, or they're investing their own capital, so they have their own skin in the game. And a lot of people don't realize that most investors are just as much on the fundraising trail as founders a lot of the time because they're trying to get money from LPs
That's right.
you are, trying to all the time. So
There's like 20-30% overlap between you somewhat competitive, but then also, yeah.
exactly.
It's
And
interesting.
I think the venture game is changing a lot because people are they're carving out their own issues like you are, and they're carving out their own social followings too, and their own expertise within different sectors that if I was building anything in sustainability or in a lot of ways, we believe we're doing a lot of social good with Entre, but it's a little different, right? But like, you'd be the
That's
first,
I like what you're doing.
you know what I mean? You'd be the
I see
first
it.
person that I'd want to contact. Obviously, like you're someone who I would love to, because I view you as a leader in that space. So
You're so kind. Thank you.
I think a lot of people, especially with like consumer products, and this is like the trend of a lot of influencers coming into this space as well. I just interviewed Marshall from Animal Capital, who is the fund with Josh Richards and all of them. And they're able to push, a lot of investments and things and companies just because of their following and how much they have on social media alone. They can change the whole trajectory of a company. So it's really fascinating.
That is a fascinating point. I'm starting to discover this slowly. It's how much influence does tie into the game of venture capital. And it's not something to be discounted. I think as we see, you just mentioned it yourself in the product side, you have celebrities going toward product. This has been happening for some time, influencer networks, creator economy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, people's influence is valuable. I don't think that that's going to go away. Do you?
Not at all. It's something that I think is really just getting started.
I see.
In my opinion, if you look at like Harry Stebbings as well, I mean, he's turned into a major player in the VC game now, and it's mostly just because of his podcast, right?
Yes, such a good podcast.
So you look at that alone, that's just like one example of it. But these guys with Animal Capital, and then you look at even like Jake Paul and Mr. Beast and they're starting to invest in startups too. So it's just getting started. And then I think with the kind of another hot topic right now, which is like Web3 and DAOs and stuff like that.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do this.
You know what I mean? Well, these anyone could start a DAO, right? And then just raise money with their friends and their followers, and then start investing in things or buying certain projects or buying companies, buying the Constitution, which is, I just popped in, I was listening right before.
Is the jury out on that one? Because it's hard to tell.
Yeah, they ended up not getting it. Stinks. Yeah, I put in a little bit too. I was just like, whatever, like this is cool. But they were talking about it. I mean, they had, like 3Lau was in the Twitter spaces. They had, Kimball Musk, and people were there like supporting it, and like they were really excited about it. And it was something that I think is going to become more and more popular. How do you look at all of this stuff with your underlying thesis with social data? You like
really good question.
Crypto, pro decentralization, like how are you thinking about
I do actually think that I'm going to take a hard line on this one, in that, so I worked at this family office. They were focused on blockchain, and they were focused on crypto through 2016 and 2017 on the equity side, and also on the quantitative side. And it was tremendous to see a lot of that. What I'll say, to be non-material to anyone, things like that, what I'll say is that what surprised me the most about crypto at that time in 2018, this was after the first bubble, was how much fraud there is in that market. It was a honeypot of fraud. And I actually I wasn't aware much of crypto when I first was offered that position. I later left, but from my perspective, what was so surprising to me was how much garbage there was in that space. And I don't know why it attracted it per se. Maybe it's just the hot money thing. Maybe it's the speculative aspect. I'm skeptical that the fraud element isn't there today. However, I think it may be a little bit less right at this point. I mean, they had a major run up in price. As you know, 2017 was just a big upswing and downswing. And I'll just say, just generally, I don't want to necessarily like poo-poo any ideas, because I think what's happening with DAOs and what's happening with a lot of the blockchain technologies is amazing. But I will also say that it is still quite very much the Wild West. And the way I look at it from the standpoint of the fund is, and I'll take a little bit of a hard line on this one. Our fund aligns with the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and I see the SDGs not misaligned from blockchain nor crypto. But what I will say that because there's so much hyper speculation, and there's so many legal risks, and there are so many aspects of fraud and or vice, this idea of vice, it becomes quickly apparent that most deals are a pass from the standpoint of some structural components. For example, the way in which some companies distribute ownership stakes in the tokens and or the equity can be somewhat confusing, and it can misalign with venture, and it can misalign with the investor founder dynamics. So, in addition to that, a 10-year fund has its own set of constraints in terms of where the investment windows and the size of the market, et cetera. It's not a game of quickly recycling back into the fund for most people. For us, we don't do recycling, I'll say. But we don't invest directly in crypto tokens. I can say that strongly, but we also don't have a vice law. So I do have discretion to make decisions, but I'm very skeptical, to put it quite frankly.
Yeah, that makes a lot. That was very well said. It makes a lot of sense, and I think there's so much that's going to be happening over the next couple of years. I mean, we're so early
Yeah.
still. There's so much changing, and I think no one really knows how much regulation, the SEC, and restrictions are going to be put on a lot of this stuff. So it is tricky. I think there's a lot of opportunity. It's definitely going to be the future in one way or another.
Yeah, I agree.
Hard to figure it out.
The
But
layer 2 thing is exciting to me. Layer
Yeah.
2 is very exciting.
the point earlier too, which is like the fraud and all that. Yeah, it's one of the things that was, it was weird when I first got into all of this, back kind of around that same time, like 2016, 2017. It was like the majority of people were using it for illegal stuff. Like,
Oh, right. Exactly. Right.
and they still are, but
Oh my gosh.
you're starting to see there's a lot of good that can be
Of course. And I want to give a shout out to a project which I'm excited about. And there are many others. I'd probably pull up a page on this, but I'm not going to give an endorsement. I don't want to give any financial endorsements in the show, obviously. But but I will say I'm excited about Klima DAO. Have you heard of this project?
I haven't. No,
It's very exciting.
how do you spell it?
It's called KLIMADAO. And it's an anonymous group of creators that put this together. And what they're trying to do is drive up the price on carbon.
Man,
They are, so you could think of it like activist investors. And what you do is you buy this token Klima and or this other one, which is linked to it's linked to a verification protocol. And that verification protocol, what they do is they buy up and long story to my understanding, they retire these carbon credits. And the objective is just to drive up the price. Now, however, they have a very unique economic model that ties into a bonding mechanism and also a staking mechanism. And again, this is not financial advice. I don't recommend this to anyone, et cetera, but I like it because it's quite unique and new. They used Polygon, which is not a layer 2 solution, but a very efficient solution, which I believe is a great transition in effect. So you have some currency risk and all the rest, but at the same time, I mean, right now they have a 35,000 APR or 40,805 APY on that, which is insane.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. You can see I'm sharing my screen right now. This is pretty wild. Polygon's really interesting because it's just like, makes Ethereum cheaper and faster and everything.
Exactly.
But it's one of those things. Once ETH2 comes out, I don't know if Polygon is gonna around anymore.
It's
weird. Same thing with Solana. I don't think Solana would even exist, or
that's right.
It would exist, but not be where. I mean, it's it's growing in market cap crazy. It's just like it's weird that they're kind of, they haven't upgraded Ethereum yet, but I think that's going to help this.
You're gonna have to we're gonna have to lobby the miners to make that happen.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, and I'm really excited about this kind of stuff. This is really.
There are many other projects similar to this. I should actually give more shout outs and such, but I just get excited about, if you look at this Constitution play, this one, immediately on that Spaces tonight, one of those who were on stage said, well, it looks like we lost, but they immediately jumped to the idea that they want to buy stadiums. Did you hear that?
Yeah, It was like a sports team or something. Yeah. And I was like,
person, yeah.
I'd like clicked in. I was like, oh, wow, that's actually genius. Cause I would love to buy like the Pittsburgh Pirates or the, like whatever, a sport that'd be insane. But I think it could very easily happen and then it's kind of similar to what the Green Bay Packers, like you can own a piece of the Green Bay Packers.
Really, that's great.
Yeah, it's publicly owned or I guess private. I don't know.
Huh.
You can buy shares of the Green Bay Packers and they're the only
Well, that
team.
may be the future of sports right there. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Who's your team?
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh and everything, so I'm a big Steelers. You're in LA though, right? So
Well, Huntington Beach in Orange County. I don't even know I think the Rams is the closest team or something like that. I'm not a big football fan either way, so I shouldn't make that one up.
Yeah,
I love football. Great sport though. It's a great sport. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting there's a lot of interesting things over the last few years that have happened with LA sports teams, but conversation for a different day.
I help the room blow up. Let's do it.
Yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about some of the stuff that you're excited about in your space. You've invested in over 40 companies now.
Yeah, as an angel investor, I've invested in 40 deals. I just got the sign off today. I invested in I don't know if I should announce it, but I just got the angel deal to go through on this alternative dairy company, which is wow. There's a lot to be discovered here. Think of I'm just going to kind of go into an idea space for a moment without trying to be material, because I don't know how much I can discuss yet, but I'm really excited about it. Think of the idea that you could have a plant-based or cellular-based alternative protein, let's say dairy, that had all the attributes of better health, low saturated fat, et cetera, that gave you the exact same experience. There are companies doing this as, think of like Impossible Burger, for example, plant-based type of. I interviewed someone that worked for them previously. I'm actually gonna publish that, but looking forward to that. This idea that you can get the flavor profile, you can get the texture and kind of the whole experience of, let's just say, the meat experience is really exciting. There was a company I saw with they had just spun out of I don't have the name, but there's this company I saw recently, and I didn't invest in them, but I'm just excited about them. SOSV is this biogenetics kind of lab-based investment accelerator. And one of their recent cohort startups they are working on creating plant-based fats that synthesize all the aspects of fat that you'd get, like say in a steak, which have melting point considerations and things like that. So it's super fascinating. And then you have always the texture and all the protein aspects. It's really dynamic. I hope to share that podcast interview with you too. Maybe you'll find it interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. It's obviously there's a lot of the alternative milks now, like almond milk and oat milk, but they drastically change the taste of milk.
That's right. Imagine plant-based milk that had that passed the Turing test of milk. Imagine, and it was healthy for you.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you can say, but is the base, is it like almond? Is it oats? Is it something different? Is it a combination of several things? What
probably yeah. I'm so excited. We'll go there.
Okay. You're all good. You're all good.
I'll just go out into some other examples that I'm really excited about in my own angel portfolio. And then I can actually only announce one company that we've invested in called Peep Connect. They're based out of the Midwest. This team is tremendous. They're working in social commerce and with Gen Z and trying to make the local economy stimulated in a very unique business model. And our fund invested in them, so I'm really excited about them. And maybe I can invite them onto the show or something like. They'd love to be interviewed, I imagine. On the angel side, because I can really only talk to that, we only made 2 investments out of the fund. One I can't actually announce yet. On the angel side, I've invested, I think we talked about 40 deals, and there are many, many that I'd like to list, but I'm just kind of scrolling through the page right now. One one exciting one is called Drone Seed. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up.
They're great.
It's super cool. And I think it's solving. Yeah, tell us more about.
Yeah. I mean, I can only tell you what I think I know right now. They're scaling really rapidly, and they are, think of them like a fire prevention post fire replanting solution that uses drones to efficiently plant areas where there's a higher survivability rate and a much lower cost, things like that. Sort of these sort of drone swarms that plant in a very sophisticated way. Now, I saw this deal way back when, and I thought, oh my gosh, seems almost impossible. But as they started to really show traction, I got to know the founders and kind of what they were doing. I realized this is actually an incredible company. Yeah, I love what they're doing. I just to pick that out of the hat. There's another one that's a little less obvious on the impact side, but there's this company called Neighborly, Neyborly, Neighborly.
I know that I know Ben and
Ben, it's tremendous.
yeah, we did a couple events with them actually in back before COVID. When I was out in LA and San Francisco, we used two neighborlies for our events.
So
And
cool. I can't
yeah,
believe my day.
I love them because I think I found out about them through Jason Calcanis, and
Yeah.
then we I met them, and then I was like, hey, we should partner. Like, we're doing all these events and stuff. And then we just started doing a couple events, and then COVID hit. But we were going to use neighborlies for like all these different cities that we were going to go into. So I love
I want to give another shout out to Ben. I'm so excited that you're promoting them and kind of going behind their. I want to say Ben is tremendous. He's shown so much resiliency through the pandemic. Probably got hit harder than most companies out there.
Oh, yeah.
And just to say that he and his brother are tremendous founders, and what they're building is awesome. I really love them. It's not standing out as necessarily one of the strongest sustainability or social good products, but I truly believe what they're doing is great on multiple levels in terms of creating a location based sense of community with these custom, like these what you call it, curated spaces that they put a lot of design into. They just create a sense of community in places that don't necessarily have it. And what it really does is it makes it more affordable to host events. In my opinion, it makes it more affordable host events that you would normally pay to go to a hotel and overpay, and it would, kind of dry, poor lighting. I love what they're doing.
For sure.
I want to give one last shout out. Another company I'm really excited about called Milk Run, and they're really, again, in like this local tech, hyper local grocery delivery space, but they're emphasizing organic produce, locally farmed and sourced produce, and also kind of sustainable organic bundles in a delivery model that I think is just tremendous. And the female founder there, she's awesome. You hear her speak a couple of times, you're like, oh, this person is just gonna kill it. She's doing great.
Yeah, this is pretty cool as well. I love all of these. There's so much opportunity, I think, in the sustainability industry right now.
Yeah.
And it's still so early in it too, because it hasn't really
No.
it
Well, it's
hasn't
probably partially my fault. I should be scaring you more, telling you how urgent it is to save the future.
Yeah, well, if you look at all the smartest people in the world and all the richest people in the world, they're all getting into climate change, sustainability.
Yes.
Some of them are getting into space, which is, that's its own thing. But
Oh, it's so exciting there.
that can also kind of go towards, social good and sustainability as well, because
Indeed so.
a lot of people believe that we're going to need to become, interplanetary and all of that as well. So
I'm going to work on fixing the planet here first. I like the interplanetary.
I look at it too. It's like, hey, why don't we put the billions of dollars towards like, some of the stuff here real quick, and then we can put more of the billions late in like another like 25 years towards space.
Okay. I have to do service here. There are two more companies I would like to highlight. One is a highly diverse, amazing team on Unspun. I don't know if you've heard about them.
Unspun.
Think of it like last mile factories for clothing that is custom clothing. They basically think of it like 3D printed clothing.
Unspun.io. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
and they are very, very exciting. They went through the gauntlet in terms of grant funding, et cetera. I had the privilege to invest in them. I think it was at Seed or Series A. I think it's at Seed I invested, and my gosh, what they're doing, it's incredible. Can't really talk to a lot of the details, but I'm excited about them. Another one, have you heard of Aether Diamonds too?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm excited to tell you about this one. This is a great sustainability opportunity. Think of a carbon negative diamond it pulls atmosphere from the air using renewable energy, and it makes you a diamond engagement ring. The founder of this company, Ryan, is tremendous. He has, like, I don't know, 10 plus years of experience in the jewelry industry and knows all about the distribution aspects, et cetera, and marketing and all the rest. But effectively, to my understanding, you're getting a carbon negative diamond that you give in an engagement ring in this highest quality grade diamond. And I can't give you exact numbers in terms of offsets, but it's definitely a sustainability aspect, in my opinion. And it's a social good in effect as well. I don't know if you can pull them up. I can try to find their URL for you there. It's Aether, AETHER diamonds.com.
Yeah. I think I got it here. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I've been kind of blown away. I mean, I'm not married or anything, but the whole diamond industry is pretty wild.
Yeah,
And
it's heavy.
and what goes into it, from my understanding, is like I mean, it's a lot of work and different working conditions and all of that for a
Right.
lot of people. So yeah, this is really fascinating. And understanding of the origin story of diamonds, it was kind of just literally made up, and then it just became this pseudo rare thing that doesn't really do anything besides it looks nice and it shines bright. And so like it kind of caught on, and then just got completely capitalized with the wedding industry. But yeah, I mean, this is really, really cool.
Michael, I'd like to highlight one other thing about my angel portfolio that I'm very proud of and conscious of. The 84% of the startups I've backed, 84% have one or more underrepresented founders, and that's intentional. And I want to also say that, not to kind of like wax poetic and do the whole humble brag thing, but I think that it's Arlen Hamilton and Brian Landers a few years ago gave me the inclination to look at that as a value driver, and I believe strongly that it is. So I would want to encourage everyone to filter for that and screen for that and actively seek that out. And just I think personally that it's a tremendous opportunity that may be way overlooked. Wink, wink.
100%. I think it's if you're looking at underserved and underrepresented markets, founders, startups, all of that. And, there's a huge opportunity right now, not just even that, but also in different markets too,
Yes.
outside of the Valley and whatnot. It's one of the reasons why I love what like Brandon Brooks is doing,
Yes.
like
Overlooked.
Yeah. I mean,
Overlooked ventures.
there's so much
Right.
of
And
happening.
Janine as well.
Yep, and there's so much opportunity there, for sure. So I love that, and I think getting different perspectives, getting different, you look at the world differently, depending on where you're from and how you grew up in the environment and everything, and you're going to understand things that no one else could because of that, and you're going to uncover different problems, and then what entrepreneurship is about is building those solutions for those different problems. So huge opportunities with that, and just another reason why like you're going to be dominating the space for the year.
Well, actually, we are going to let's
Yes,
include us all here.
for sure. So there was a question too that came in, and about how you find these companies, and it's something that is really important for, obviously, deal flow for investors. It's extremely important. How do you, especially as a solo, GP, and as an angel investor, right? Like these larger funds, they have all these people working for them, the sourcing deals and all this other stuff. How do you approach that? How are you getting out there? How are you finding deal flow? How are you connecting with startups and entrepreneurs? And what are the ways that you go about doing that and making the connections with founders?
Yeah, I'd love to share this. And I think there's so much room for all of us as investors to improve here. I think the current way that I see myself continuing in the process is just being very active on Twitter for one. Um, uh, first underscore last is my Twitter handle. And another way is to host rooms in Entre or in Clubhouse or in Spaces, and those help a lot just because it helps tie together a community for positive. This community is on venture scale positive impacts, and really that does drive deal flow. And a lot of times, really, I have to say another thing that's super valuable is just being helpful and paying it forward to people along the way. I mean, Michael, you and I have had some pretty awesome. I mean, I've had great experiences engaging with you, and it just makes me want to work with you more. And so for me, I try to find people that I resonate with and a diverse set of people that I resonate with. And oftentimes that means making warm introductions and as long as you have a diverse pool of colleagues and friends and people in your space, I think it's appropriate to say that it's good to get introductions from that base. But again, highly emphasizing the diversity aspect, because what ends up sometimes happening is you get this unconscious bias aspect, where you filter for people based on what they look like or how they sound like or all the rest. And I don't like to do that. So I would say that just being open-minded and being helpful, paying it forward is a great way to help lift the ecosystem. And by lifting the ecosystem, it's really amazing to me every single day how doing that routinely over 5, 6, 10 months, you just start. I mean, I see 5, 10 deals a day just from people that are like, hey, this is Michael here. Hey, yeah, it's been a month or two. How are you doing? Let's say hi, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity or a few. And not being greedy on what you get out of every transaction is a good learning thing for myself. Not being, hey, what is my immediate reward here? Being open to what we can gain together, I guess, is a good way to look at it.
For sure. I absolutely love that. And yeah, I think getting to just know other founders too. Like founder, like I'm always talking to other founders as well, right? Not just because of even if I was starting any other kind of company, but particularly with Entre, like I'm always, if I come across any business that I think is good for you, I'm going to intro you to that person or another investor or whatever. So, like getting to know founders on deeper levels, they're always going to introduce other founders to other investors. And, they're always going to be, connected in one way or another. And I love, because there's a lot of investors too out there that literally won't look at deals outside of the valley, or they won't look at deals unless, oh, this company also invested, or if they went to this school or whatever else. And, it is what it is, and they have a track record.
Well, I have to say that I actually do have a bias there. I'll just state my own bias. We don't have what do you call it, a mandate in Fund One. We're raising under 506c, so I can openly talk about what I choose to talk about. I'm not offering financial advice or forward-looking, blah blah blah. So what I can say is that we can invest outside of the U.S., but I screen away from it and I say, look, I want to back U.S. startups, Fund One, because there are so many. I mean, first of all, there are a ton of deals from outside of the U.S., a ton. Secondly, each country has its own legal aspects, which means more legal costs, et cetera, et cetera. So I consciously say we're going to focus on U.S. startups headquartered, and I know that that's a bias, but I have to at some point make some sort of dividing line, even though I'm probably missing out on many, many unicorns.
Yeah,
that hurts.
Well, the thing is, it's actually getting easier and easier for foreign founders to set up legal entities in the US. Like one of our partners, actually Firstbaseio, they allow anyone to set up an entity in the US. Like,
So great.
they'll give you an address, all that. They'll take care of all of it, and it's actually super affordable. Uh,
Thanks for that. I'm going to check them out.
yeah, if there's, I would be happy to intro. Like, we have a deal with them too. So,
Nice.
there's firstbase.io/Entre or something. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, I'll definitely send you that. Firstbase.io is the site. And
Food for thought on that one. I want to say one thing about this is the legal due diligence is costly. So just if founders are listening and they're thinking that we may want to headquarter in the US, I don't want to give any financial or legal advice either. But one thing, just, depending on where you're at and how much you're raising, that can eat into funds. So it may be worth targeting bigger funds that are more used to doing that. But just food for thought.
for sure. So how they structure it is it's actually, so it's $399 and you get an LLC or C Corp in Delaware or Wyoming.
Oh my gosh.
ID, EIN, US bank account with, I think they partner with Mercury for this, which is also one of our other partners, a physical address in the US, and then you get free calls with, and they give you the post incorporation docs as well. Entre startups get 15% as well off of the $399. So
I gotta say, I don't want to shine you on too much, Michael, but I love what you're doing with Entre, and I just your energy is unstoppable, and like just seeing you real time right now do this screen share, and you're innovating in real time in front of my eyes. I'm just so excited for you. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, it's come a long way. We the app last, when we first rolled it out, it was, it was pretty rough, but it's getting there. We're really excited about it, and there's just a lot of like, things that we've been really working towards, and we're excited to start really getting it out there now and start doing more marketing and everything. But yeah, there's a lot of there's so many different software and services now to help founders. And there's almost something, no matter what your problem is as a founder or even an investor now, it's easier to raise a fund. It's easier to raise for investors. It's easier to incorporate. And we're trying to even make it extremely easy by not even doing that, but also like, being able to talk about it and get connected to people within, those interests or those industries as well. So
Hey, Michael, can I ask you something I would normally never ask in public?
sure, what's up? Yeah.
When you finally like decide to move forward in other ventures, I want to get a soft commit for you getting in my future fund, by the way.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely, I can't wait. Like I can't wait to I want to get into a bunch of stuff. Like, so to give you a little bit of background real quick, I'm one of the,
We're on the line.
so my degree is actually in civil and environmental
I
engineering.
do know this.
And so I was like, I'm huge into, I love sustainability. I built like a solar and electric like car in like 5th grade. And like,
What?
I'm like a huge fan of all this stuff. I just like, I know that I can't handle all of it right now, but I want to get into all of this stuff. The fact that we are not sustainable and that oil and natural gas and electricity and all this stuff, it costs so much money, and we're depleting so many of just our natural resources when there's, very clear, obvious energy sources at our disposal.
Right.
And needs where we can, not only create energy, but food and all this stuff in a much better way. Like I 100% can't wait to get into that. I just like, that's going to come at a later portion of my life. And I'm looking forward to it, but it's, it's something that I want to like focus on what we're doing now, because I know it's going to like help a lot of people, and then, get into all that stuff later. And
Wow.
you will be the first person.
In the speed dial. Just come on. It's so great.
So, Zecca, what, as we get, I know we're coming up on time here, so I want to be, careful and conscious of your time. So you're in all these really fascinating, innovative industries and whatnot. what are, maybe the one, two, three really exciting things that you're looking into over the coming years? Like, what are either their startups or just the industries in general, or the solutions that you're seeing? I know you mentioned a bunch of startups, but are there any that you haven't mentioned, or any like really fascinating things within sustainability that you're like, this is going to be huge in the coming years?
I love that. Thank you so much. The first thing that I think would pop into mind is just the nexus opportunity set, where we look at sustainability holistically in the sense that you really can't take one piece out of the equation and get the rest.
Mm,
And just trying to encourage more startups in that space is important. And I know that it can be more complicated. It can be one of those things where, for example, you just talked about clean energy. And I know that you have this desire to work there. And I know that perhaps you don't see this opportunity as being strongly associated with that part of your personal mission. But I would say that you may even be able to look deeper. And for example, even if it's just a band-aid to some degree, look toward integrating sustainability into your own practices. And so what I'm driving at is that, without it going toward the topic of ESG, I would go for looking at opportunities to do more social good and more sustainability in your own startup today. And if that means something like integrating reward systems that where people feel that they're able to participate in some type of social lottery or some type of social community sort of mechanism. I truly think that, the more you can emphasize sustainability and social good in your own startup and everyone's own startup, I think it just drives us more towards sustainability. So I would actually turn it back to you and almost challenge you to think more about what are some of the environmental aspects you could integrate into your firm that didn't necessarily misalign with your core focus. And so
mm.
I guess to really round it out, I'm very excited about you as a founder, but I'm also excited about other founders who are uh, looking at opportunity sets where there are these overlapping aspects. Clean water meets social impact, for example. Climate change meets a highly diverse team. Anything of that nature where there's a very clear multiple impact component.
Yeah, I appreciate you for bringing this up too, because I think it's something that I would love to figure out ways to, start implementing more for this. Like, we just started really doing more. Like, we just actually implemented this points system where people actually earn points for inviting other users, and they earn
Like
points
that.
when other people upload their content. And we're trying to figure out, we're going to be giving out prizes, and people can
Like
redeem
that.
the prizes and stuff. But I'd love to give people the ability to redeem points for other things too, or like maybe if you redeem, your points, we'll plant a tree or something like that too.
That's
And
exactly it. You may
you're,
downplay it, and you may say it's only a point, or it's only one tree or a handful of
yeah,
trees. But actually, I think that that's the unlock because you know you're just creating an environment, a culture within your own team where sustainability becomes more of an interesting topic. And
yeah,
yeah, if what better person could do that? If I have to say,
for sure. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I've seen companies now actually put like carbon neutral company on their websites now.
that's
And I guess it's kind of similar to like a B Corp certification, where I guess there's some foundation that actually looks into, your energy usage, and then make sure you're doing offset somehow. So I'd look like that. That's something that we should definitely look into as well. Are you seeing any unique ways that people are doing this?
oh yeah. Well, take for example Klima DAO, but
Yep.
off of the blockchain and without the Web 3.0 component, there are other land-based approaches to ecosystem services. Take for example Pachama, which was Sequoia back. They're reaching Series B now, I think, and they're incredible. Take Drone Seed would be another example of this, where there are multiple impact aspects that aren't just driven solely toward climate change, let's say, but they also don't have a very strong sort of like sort of like a off ramp to gambling or vice and things like this. So there are these companies that embrace more complexity and see a market outside of something else. It can be complicated though, and I'll say one of the most complicated part of being an impact investor, from my experience, is not knowing where to draw the line on the obvious vice side. For example, there are some companies that have a massive market in military services, but then they also have a social good side. So I guess it's a really kind of a case by case, and there's no playbook for this for the founders nor the investors, if I had to be totally frank.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, yeah, there's some gray area there for
For sure.
Yeah, and it is tricky. But it's I think almost every company in the future is going to have some component, like they're going to need to have some component, or people aren't going to buy their stock or want to work there or all these other things. So yeah, I just put in the room chat, let's plant some trees. So and I know Miriam's like big into this.
Miriam's fantastic. She's great.
Yeah, so we can definitely figure out some ways of making this happen. But we also have a question here about like someone wants to get into angel investing. If you want to give some advice for if someone has never made an angel investment before, if they're not really super familiar with startups and tech, what would you recommend for them as a place to get started with angel investing and maybe starting to put some money into startups?
Okay, let's create this into a little bit of a social lottery. I will give 15 more minutes for 3 more questions, which is nudging the audience to be more active. Okay, so let's start with angel investing. How does someone get into angel investing?
Yep.
Okay, all right, I'm ready for it. Angel investing is anyone can be an angel investor today. The SEC recently changed the rules to allow for people to have FINRA designation. I think it's Series 65. You can get the designation, pay for it, take the test, become an unsponsored. Again, this is not legal financial advice, but just one thing one can look into. You can get this accreditation under the new rule changes that had been in place for 50 plus years. They now changed them, and you can become accredited. What does that mean? Accredited investor in the US is under the SEC designation. Once you get designated as such, you can get access to certain deals, say hedge funds, real estate, even crypto, angel investing in equity, etc. I focus on angel investing in equity, and for an accredited investor there, once you get certified, you can have it under the wealth standard or this other version of the standard. Then you can invest on platforms like AngelList. You can invest on other platforms that have Reg CF, which retail investors can invest in. And here's what I would also say. Before you even worry about becoming a quote unquote angel investor or accredited investor, I would say 2 things. Work for a startup, work for a few, get some exposure, maybe even start your own company. Also consider working doing scouting. I would also say start investing in Reg CF deals. Start seeing a lot of those deals. Be critical of those deals. Start building your own portfolio, even if you're not accredited. There's really no excuse today because there are some tremendous deals in the open. Actually, I'm going to give a shout out on the show here. Is there another question while I look for something here, Michael?
Yeah, I just asked. So we'll see. They're going to be coming through. So yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Well, I'm going to do a fun shout out to a founder who I like, who I believe is very overlooked. Tremendous founder. Her name's Jody Frank, and she runs Culineer. It's Culineer. I don't know if that's culineer.com, but they work with farm. I think they're called community CSAs, and they're basically trying to scale a company in a more efficient manner for CSAs. They're running a WeFunder campaign right now, and I'm not promoting them. I haven't invested, nothing else, but she's great. And I just wanted to give a shout out to what Culineer is working on. And that is a Reg CF deal. So anybody can invest. And, you definitely want to do all your own due diligence and kind of make your decision based on high research and conviction, et cetera, et cetera. And it is a highly risky endeavor. So just to be very clear, angel investing tends to have what's called a power law, where you have, let's say, anywhere from 60 to 70% of the companies failing or not returning your money. And it usually take about 5 to 7 years to exit. You cannot get out early in those deals under most equity deals. And knowing that, the name of the game is to try to get the winners making as much more to cover most of the losses. And because it's a distributed power law, you get some quote unquote unicorns and things like this, which I'm not necessarily encouraging, but just want to encourage the aspect of risk to be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think we did a We Funder campaign last year. It was cool to just get other people in the community to invest. And then we obviously raised money from other, angels and, more institutional investors, but it was just cool to open that up, to the community. And I think,
Right.
well, I'd like to do another one in the future at some point in time, because I think it's really powerful, to let other people, to people in the community who actually are building it with you, have the ability to do that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I think DAOs are going to be interesting to see how people do that. I'm really curious to see how those work out with venture, over the coming months and years. So we have another question here.
All right, let's go.
About mental health. So how do you take care? Obviously, there's a lot of, good days, bad days with investing.
Who just teed me up for this one? Okay, I'll go there. I like it.
So how do you deal with your, the mental health? How do you deal with the ups and downs? Are there any things that you do to, get over it? Or, obviously, there's a lot of different scenarios that happen as you're investing in companies, and, there's a lot of good things in there. There's a lot of bad things too. So
Yeah.
how do you overcome those? Have you found any solutions that have worked well for yourself or other founders and investors that you know?
I will say generally this is for myself only. For me personally, I like playing the guitar. I mean, for me, it's nice and relaxing. I like going out into nature and taking walks. My wife and I take a lot of walks together. Being out in nature is really healthy, however overlooked it may seem, in my opinion. There's actually a lot of research and studies surrounding why nature is so good for our psyche. And part of it has to do with like the chaos of nature and the fact that we cannot control and predict it. To some of the research showed that. And so just getting outside and looking around you, like what are the birds doing? What are the plants doing? Just observing nature is, if you can get anywhere near it or anything, just do it. Go to the beach or whatever you can do. Um, Also, I'll say meditation is generally great. Sometimes I have a hard time keeping up on my own meditation process, but it helps me personally a lot. And I'll give a little bit of a shout out. We're actually so Positive, on Venture Scale Positive Impacts with an I in the middle. If you go to our Twitter account, we're running you did tee me up for this, Michael, didn't you?
Of course. No,
Okay.
That's the question, but I'm here for it. I'm actually gonna link it right now, though.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're doing a fun giveaway with it's called Founders System. It's foundersfirstsystem.com. And it's a formerly exited founder who's basically running a startup that I think that they're doing mostly because they just want to help other founders. And they have this program that is a year-long program. We're giving away 3-year-long subscriptions to it. I think it's $300 or $250 for the year. And we're just doing a giveaway through the end of the year. So if anyone here wants, to enter, you just DM Positive. And if you want to follow, that's great. It's really just kind of an experiment. I don't know if anyone's done it before. Hopefully it turns out well. I can't subscribe. I don't know what it's all about, but it seems really great.
I love it. I just linked it in the room chat there for people.
Michael, you're creating so many positive impacts by just being yourself, and I want to encourage you to keep going forward. You're a force. I love it.
I appreciate that. And our last question here: do you think
here we go.
these can be built with 100% remote teams?
Absolutely not. Good night. I have no idea. That's too hard of a question to answer. Okay. So specifically 100% remote teams.
100% remote.
100% remote. Okay. So you have no office. Are we talking about like a WeWork we can work at, or what are we talking about? We don't have any input.
So, I can give, here at Entre, we're almost basically 100% remote. Like I'm in our office, right? But it's like a 2 or 3, it's like a 3-person office basically.
Great.
And then the rest of the team is in, New York, Florida, California, Arizona, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Africa. So we're pretty remote. We have, a few people here in Pittsburgh. I see opportunity here in Pittsburgh because it's like really affordable and there's a lot of good talent and stuff. And I like the idea of having a core team in the same place and all of that. But
There's
you
the
know,
answer.
I think, well, no, the question is to you. I was just describing what our situation.
Why can't you just you just
But
answered it though? You really just answered it.
like something like us would be, I guess, but we're still very small, you know, in early stage.
Right.
So,
Well,
you know, as you know, people as this evolves, like there are some examples of, you know, 100% remote teams. Like I think Basecamp is, and there's another one that I'm forgetting, but there's a few. Like
someone
what?
should write a book on that. How to do it, how to scale, and you should write the book. There we have it. We just gave you
Well, we'll see. I guess let's ask this: how many of your companies have remote teams? Like, do you know the companies that you've invested in? Are they all like? Do they all just work in the same place? Are they all have physical office and work there? Do they have?
throw a number at you. I have not spent a whole lot of time. I only know half of the founders in my own portfolio because I've invested through syndicates as a small angel investor. But I'll say that those that I do know, and I could probably guess that maybe half or so, something like that. I don't know if that's accurate though. I may be wrong about that.
Gotcha.
These are
Yeah.
not easy questions. I like them.
It depends, I think, on the type of company that you want to run and the culture you want to build and everything. Like for us, it's just, you know, I don't really care who you are, where you're from, where you went to school. That like if you fit with the team and you can, you know, you communicate well, you're on time, you get the work done, and you know you're good, then that's all that really matters at the end of the day, especially for the type of
Can I
business
come
that.
and work to you? Can I come and work for you? I like working with you already. I can tell. How do I sign up?
Well, I think a lot of it too, from what I've seen, and the conversations I've had, there's a lot of people leaving companies that were forcing them to go back to the office
Right.
just so that they can keep working remote. Because COVID was like, oh, I can do this and I can get just as much work done working from home or traveling and more flexibility. So, in my opinion, the future of work is flexible, it's remote, it's much more entrepreneurial. It's heavy, you know, tech, virtual, all of that stuff. So, there is still a tremendous amount of value in being around your team. I love working in person with my team and with people. I can't wait to do that more. I can't wait to like, you know, do team offsites and all of that stuff with what Carrie was just getting at.
Any motivational speakers in Bali? I'll sign myself up.
Let's do it. I will keep you at that actually.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we will. We're trying to figure out where we want to do something
That
after
sounds fun.
after our raise. I want to get the team together and do something. So we'll figure it out. I'll definitely keep you in the loop. But
Australia may be all right as well. I could probably compromise.
yeah, I've never been to Australia or Bali, so I've heard a lot of great things about both of them. But as we wrap up here, Zecca, where number one, where can people find you, follow you, learn more about everything? And do you have any parting words for everyone? Any final piece of advice for, you know, founders or investors out there?
Yes, I have one that I'll say very strongly. And Michael, I want to say thank you again. Really enjoyed this. I hope to be a guest on your show again. You're a great interviewer. Thank you again.
Advice.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's more of a conversation than an interview. Honestly, I feel like it was
Well,
a lot back and forth. Which
one thing someone told me when I started podcasting is just make your guests look great and give them an opportunity to be themselves and shine. And I think you do that. And I think it's conscious as well. You're doing a great job. I want to say it again. I'm doing a great job. I want to say this as well about advice. I don't tend to give advice because I usually fail in doing so. But I do give some feedback, as you know, Michael. And I think here what I'd say is that one thing about what I'm trying to encourage is founders to develop their own positive impact within the story, but also just within the operation and leaning into that. So I would encourage each of your founders to think more about, why am I doing this? What motivates me to do it? And how can I make more of a positive impact in doing so? And I think that it's worth it, even if you don't necessarily see an immediate financial reward in a particular direction. I think you said it yourself, just building that culture, building it, into more commitment from your client base, from your customer retention aspect. I would just encourage your own personal set of positive impacts to focus on those.
I love that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That
I picked it
where
up.
I you need to you should definitely add that to your
The guy
site.
with the bubble head popping. Actually, that's my emerging human logo. You like that?
I love it. I love it. I dropped some links, responsibly.vc.
Responsibly.vc on
I
Twitter.
dropped your Twitter there. I dropped your link tree as well. And we'll link to all of that in the show notes as well. But Zecca, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Entrepreneur Show. If you'd like to connect and network with other like-minded people, entrepreneurs, investors, freelancers, and startups, check out our app or go to our website, joinentre.com. Thank you so much for being a part of our community. If there's anything that we can do to help you, please reach out to us and let us know.